I hope you enjoyed my first video. This time we'll look at what entertained them and where they worked, who they married and where they lived. This is just the family sitting outside the house and enjoying the sun. This is Grandad John and Rob sharing. This, I was told, was at the bottom of the cemetery hill, opposite the cemetery. The other person is Jack. Jesse and Joan milking their pet calf. The caption on this photo said, "The guaranteed price." This looks like the two youngest having fun in the snow. The hill they're using is fairly steep. That's the trees in the distance that Auntie Jessie always called the faraway trees. And in the middle of the paddock we have oak stacks. Betty with Queenie's foal. Rob is in the background. Rob learnt to play the pipes from Jack MacDonald at Redan. This is Rob and Jack MacDonald playing at a Makarita School Jubilee. Edith also learnt for a short while. This is on a train excursion that went to Bluff. I think that is May Nat, then Molly, Betty, Jack and Jessie. With the locals, a horse ride to the top of Mount Egremont. Molly and Rob, and that's Toby Nat in the front. When a new bridge was opened in the Tarcote Valley over the Tarcote River, a group of locals all went down to the opening. This photo was titled "Where the Main Camp Was." There's Jack and Betty in that photo. On the other photos it was also stated that these were sent to Rob. Rob competed at a lot of sports meetings, likes of Glenham, Papatawai, Waikawa, Niagara, and there was one in Makarita too, and he won quite a few cups. Here he is with Auntie Ina, who obviously was a tennis player. Rob went with Toby Nat to a lot of these sports meetings. Toby Nat was a top athlete. This was on Christmas Day at Edendale. Here is Rob, Jack and Roddy MacDonald all ready for the next sports meeting. They also went to Miller's Flat to visit their cousins, Sheila Taylor and Ethel Hinsley. Here we can see Joan holding the horse and Jack driving. This is Ormaglade at Miller's Flat also. It was Alec MacDonald's place. His nephews both worked on holidays for him. Rob was one of them. Roger McGowan also worked there. This is Jessie's 12th or 13th birthday. Joan is beside her and Edith on the other side. Fencing in the snow. I know the top of that hill. It is all rock. This is probably a bit more recent, probably in the 40s so. The first load of lambs being taken away by truck, or as they call them, lorries. An early photo of Edendale. Where the mark is about where I think Auntie Mary's shop would have been. Ina went to Edendale and worked with Auntie Mary sewing dresses. This photo, she was away to Wellington to sew army uniforms. Edith is away nursing. Ina stayed in Wellington, where she worked as a stewardess on the Wanganella on the Trans-Tasman shipping service. She married Clive Wallace, who had a son, Wayne. This photo is of Wayne on the horse with Rob. They came down most holidays, sometimes just Wayne by himself, and stayed with all his cousins in the area. The McDonalds owned the hotel in Palmerston. That is where Molly went to work. This photo is of Auntie Lil and her mother Alexandrina. There was another McDonald involved in this, and she was Auntie Lou. From what we can gather, they were sister-in-laws. Her great-grandmother, Peterina Monroe, had two older sisters, Jane and Alexandrina. They all came to New Zealand. Jane married a William Mackay and was in the Kelso Dunrobin area. Alexandrina married Archibald MacDonald. This was arranged before they left Scotland. When his brother, Robert, our great-grandfather, arrived in New Zealand, he met and married Peterina. So two brothers married two sisters. Complicated, eh? While in Palmerston, Molly met Stan Mathers, who was working as a builder in the area. When Jessie and Joan were sent to Palmerston for holidays, Stan would take them when he and Molly went on outings. This photo is of Mokarita pig hunting with Jack and Jessie. Jessie shows how it is done. Stan does the butchering, while Jessie, Jack, Edith and Molly watch. Molly and Stan got married in Edendale on 24th of June 1939. Betty was the bridesmaid. They started married life in Omakau, shifting to Alex before Stan left for the war. Once the war was over, Stan built their house in Bantry Street, Alexandra. Molly standing outside Auntie Mary's house, all ready to go. The bride and groom leave Aunt Mary's at Edendale for their honeymoon. Uncle Stan with his daughter Joan, who unfortunately died. Molly and Stan had two more children, Olive and Duncan. Now Rob, he was in the Otago Mounted Rifles. Their main camp was at Wingatui, but this photo was in 1939 in Burnham. Rob served with the 23rd Battalion. Also in the Otago Mounted Rifles was John Mackenzie from Beaumont. When Rob went to visit, he met Matty, Mum. They got married in Beaumont 29th of March 1944 after Dad was home from the war. Jack and Edith were attendants. They settled in Mokarita farming. Rob and Matty, Mum and Dad, had 3 children. Here pictured at Joan's wedding, Alistair, Matt, Jean. Over the hill from Caddonside lived the Murrays, about where Stu Cameron's second cowshed is now. Uncle Bill made frequent visits to Caddonside to see Betty. Bill and Betty in Mokarita. Granny and Grandad shifted to 175 Conyers Street in Invercargill. This is where Betty got married at Knox Church on the 4th of January 1945. Auntie Betty and Uncle Bill settled in Redan, where Uncle Bill worked on the flax mill. This is Betty with their first two children, Alec and David. Then followed Elizabeth and twins Eileen and Isabel. Later they shifted to 175 Conyers Street to look after Granny. Edith, who was a nurse, married Jack Meiklejohn on the 21st of January 1948. They settled on an orchard in Earnscleugh. Jack was also in the Otago Mounted Rifles and later trained in Burnham. He served with J-Force. This is Jack and Jack Meiklejohn in Burnham. While Jack was in Burnham, his father was hospitalised. Jack was sent home to help his sisters milk the cows. He rode this bike from Edendale. His sisters were pleased to see him as he yahooed as he came over the top of the hill. Jack, after working at home, went to Gorge Road to work at a flax mill. On the way to Wyndham, where Norm Hunter now lives, there lived the Muirs, Fred and Bill. The Henrys had always used this as a stop on the way to Wyndham. They got a new housekeeper, June McCullum. Jack started making more stops there. The story is, to start with, that she would hide whenever she heard him coming. After they were married, on the 14th of November 1949, they settled in Gorge Road. He won an army ballot for a farm in Tutorau, where he settled until retiring to Rangiora. They had 4 daughters, Margaret, Jacqueline and Pamela in the photo, and then Fiona. This is Jack in the parade at the Mokarita Centennial. The Henry Family Orchestra are now playing. During the war years, with Molly married, Ina away sewing army uniforms and Edith nursing, Rob was overseas and Jack in Burnham camp. It was Betty and the young girls that helped their father milk the cows and other farm chores. After Rob was married, Granny and Grandad, along with Jessie and Joan, shifted to 175 Conyers Street in Invercargill. That is where Jessie and Joan finished their schooling. This photo, taken when Jack and Edith were home, is on their new rockery. Strangely, where that rockery is where in 1972 Wendy and I made it. Jessie met a young man, Cliff Burris. He was quite persistent in his courting. They were married on the 7th of March 1947. Cliff worked at a joinery factory. Granny and Jessie with the baby in the pram. Cliff and Jessie with Neil. They had 4 children, Janice, who died, then Neil, Keith and Jill. Joan was an accomplished horsewoman. Here she is with the many prizes won at shows. Joan, who was a typist for a law firm, spent weekends at Cattonside and went hunting and to shows with Rob's horse Strathspey. At Southland's Royal Show in January 1954, Joan rode in front of the Queen. This is Joan getting ready to take me to Pony Club. She started bringing a man, Bill Gunn, out with her and spent the days with him shooting rabbits. Joan married Bill Gunn on the 8th of September 1954. Jean was the flower girl. They had 2 children, Mervyn and Graham. Just 2 more photos to finish. I apologise if I've made any mistakes. This is of the second generation family at Jack's wedding. And now to finish, at Auntie Jessie's 95th birthday party, we have the 3rd, 4th and 5th generations.